And we're live.
Hello. Hi, Chioma. Hi, Tims.
Hi. Hi,
Good
Chris.
morning. I'm
Good
so
afternoon here. It's
good
afternoon
afternoon.
here. That's right.
I forget, it's 7 a.m. here, 3 p.m. in the UK, and all the times in between. And then Australia is way far away. I don't even know what. I think they're tomorrow. They're already tomorrow. But I'm so excited to chat with you in person, Chioma, and meet you online because we've chatted back and forth a little bit. And
right.
I know quite a few people you work with, which
That's
is
right.
just a thrill. But we want to ask you, you do youth work.
That's right.
You are a parent, what do you call it? A parent expert.
Parenting coach.
Expert.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us how this all came about. Youth work, parenting expert. We want to hear more.
Okay. So, wow. Yeah. Okay. I'll try my best to start at the beginning. I was like, where does this journey start? Okay. So, I am a mother of a 16-year-old. So, my son has just turned 16. And the younger one is 8 going on 16. So, he was full grown. And and so my first journey actually started when I grew up in Nigeria and lived there till I was about 18. And when I moved to the UK to join my family, I was separated from my family for a while, and then I came to join them. And it has really inspired me because I realized how important early childhood is when it comes to um, an adult's life chances. That early childhood really impacts us. So I started a teacher training, then dropped out, unfortunately, but went to work in a school for about 7 years. And then when my second child was born, I really made a decision. I said, I really need to finish something. So either I finish my teaching degree or I do something else. And at the time, having a 1-year-old and a 7-year-old, I was like, gosh, I would not survive if I went back to teaching. And so, but I'd been volunteering as a youth worker for all those years. And I really felt the call to take that further. And I was like, I had this wrestle with God. I said, there's no money in youth work. Like in the UK, youth workers are not really that recognized. And so I had a real battle, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do it because I am really passionate about young people. And so I embarked on this 3-year theology and youth work training. And meanwhile, I set up a youth project in Bromley, which is a suburb of London. And I was also studying, and it was the craziest 3 years of my life, trying to navigate being a mother studying. But one of the things I really learned was how young people just needed a safe place. They needed to be loved, to be accepted, to be valued. But also in recent years, after working with young people, some in the criminal justice system, helping to set up projects with them, I realized something that we can work with young people, but they've got to go home to their parents. But if we don't empower the parents, how can we get the full benefit of the work that we're doing with young people? And so that started that desire to empower parents, to enrich parents, because I really realized there's a lot of stigma, there's a lot of shame around parenting, there's a lot of comparison and judgment, but not enough support for parents. So I started this journey of really saying to parents, hey, do you know what your parenting style is? And the amount of parents are like, I don't know, so being able to really bring that together and saying to people, hey, there are a few different styles of parenting, and sometimes can be a combination of all of those. But I think if we have knowledge, we can know how to do better. And so my desire, my passion is to help parents to realize the value of childhood, to invest in it. And if we do that, we can create law-abiding citizens. We can help to create the building blocks for happy adulthood. I also started a journey of therapy, and that was another thing that highlighted the impact of my childhood on myself as an adult. And so I recommend therapy. I know in the UK, I say there's still a big stigma when it comes to therapy. I say in the States, people are a little bit more comfortable with the thought of therapy, getting help. But in the UK, I think is the great British offer stiffly, that I'm fine, I don't need help, I'm okay. But actually, I say therapy saved my life. So I'm a real advocate of therapy, and I say to parents, because I say if as parents we can heal our trauma, we can help our children and we don't pass on the same mistakes, the same issues, and we can really stop that generational cycle from going over and over and over. So that's how my journey started. And a couple of weeks ago, myself and a old school friend, we went to school in Nigeria, hadn't seen each other for about 20 years, and she's now working as a school nurse. So I'm not sure if in the States what that would be, but she works in the community. And so we started running, she's also a parenting coach. And so we started, and she managed to get some funding, and we are running this parenting workshop. So we are running 6 weeks where we're really looking at things like parenting style, we're looking at safeguarding, we're looking at things like attachment theory, but just giving parents building blocks so that they can feel really empowered in their parenting journey. So that's my story of how I got to what I'm doing today.
You gave us so much information packed into this time, and I have so many questions because you bring a couple of things. One, the States does not have youth workers the way that you do in the UK.
That's right.
And this is fascinating to me. Two, the safeguarding thing that you have. So I kind of want to ask you more about that. Will you explain to our viewers in the US what it means to be a youth worker in the UK? Because it's absolutely fascinating to me. And I think we in the States could learn a lot from this. And also explain to me what safeguarding is.
Okay. So in terms of youth workers here in the UK, I found out when I was doing my youth work training, actually the history goes way back to, I think it was the 1950s, 60s, where there was this desire, because youth workers are not social workers. I know in the States you guys have social workers like we do. And I think what people don't realize, I think even in the UK, I do say that youth workers don't have the same, we're not seen as this amazing professionals that we are. Because people know social workers, people know teachers, people know nurses. They actually don't always know what's a youth. So I think even in the UK, Tim, I don't know if I'm wrong in this, but
there's a lack of prestige.
There is. So in the US, I think the difference is that you probably won't have youth pastors.
Yeah. Yes.
So in the UK, some of us might not have that theological training. I do. Not every youth pastor or every youth worker has a theological training. But what we do have is the 3 years degree that some of us would have done. And that gives us the practical skills and the tools to learn about adolescent development. That was something I really took away from my youth training. And that's one of the things I really do try to say to parents. Hey, do you know that your teenager being struck is part of their adolescent development? It's part of their brain not being developed enough, the frontal lobe not being developed till they're 21. So really helping parents. So I think, so the difference I would say in the UK and in the States is that I say in the States, you can actually get a good salary as a youth pastor. Whereas in the UK, we are undervalued and also underpaid in many, many respects, I would say. But thankful for agencies like the National Youth Agency who are really trying to show people the amazing benefits of youth workers. So a lot of us, what we do, youth workers really vary across the spectrum. So you might have those that help to run youth clubs, and it's a safe place for young people to be. You might have those who run some of the uniformed organizations, so the scouts so you guys probably have scouts or say girls brigade, boys brigade, but they might not be qualified youth workers in the same way. And then you might have those that here in the UK, we've had youth workers that work in A&E. So where young people have presented themselves as having been stabbed or involved in any criminality, youth workers can help them work through steps for the future and help them to turn their lives around. So a lot of what we do is in alongside young people doing a lot of pastoral work. And I think the thing with pastoral work is a lot harder to measure. I always feel you can measure so many things. You can measure a social worker, but because we're doing pastoral work, we're doing with social, emotional development, we're looking at the whole picture. They're a lot harder to measure. And I would say the same as sometimes a youth pastor in the States, and that's why I say in the States, there's much more, is recognized as a valuable profession, as a credible profession. But I think here in the UK, we don't quite have the same understanding of it. So there's probably, I'll say, a handful of organizations and universities that still offer the youth ministry training. Beth says something. Bravo to you for being a youth worker, especially now. Thanks for helping the world. Thank you, Beth. Thanks for that.
Will you explain to us safeguarding? Because
Yes.
though we might have established ways to keep youth safe, and if something bad happens, there might be ways to go about this and work through it and agencies to go to. You actually have something called safeguarding. And this fascinates me. Will you explain that to our audience, please?
Yeah. So safeguarding is something that, so the history of safeguarding, I was actually explaining this to one of my cousins. He's a doctor, and he grew up in Africa, in Ghana. Well, he grew up in Nigeria. He went to school in Ghana. And he said to me, working as a pediatric doctor here in the UK, he says, UK, you guys are over the top when it comes to children and the rights of children and things like that. So, and he was presented with a situation where a child had come to him, sustained some injuries, and he asked the mother if she was known to social services. Now, the mother went berserk because she said, how dare you question my parents, and how dare you question if I had caused harm to my child? And so I was able, and he didn't really understand the mother's outburst. So I had to explain to him that the history of safeguarding is that, and Tim, you might know some of this story. So historically, about 20 years ago, we had a young girl called Victoria Cleanbeer who had come to the UK, and sadly, she sustained horrendous injuries at the hands of her aunt and her boyfriend, and she actually was murdered.
Mm.
And they were saying that due to social services, the doctors, schools missing vital signs, she was not helped. We also had the case of a baby called Baby P. Again, he sadly was killed at the hands of his mother and her partner. And so because of that, they noticed that a lot of organizations were not working together. They were working as silos. So you had the police working on their own, you had social services, you had the doctors, you had the schools. So safeguarding came about with more joined up work across the agencies, so that if a school identifies maybe marks on a child's body, injuries, maybe they've been cut or hurt, they can get some help. They can actually immediately refer them to get the right help, perhaps have the child removed if it's really bad. So that's the history of our safeguarding, where all the agencies are now trying to work together. So there's now a lot of training on things like abuse and what that looks like. So things like physical abuse, emotional abuse, because usually that's more unseen, and sexual abuse and the impact on children. So that's what started the whole thing of agencies now working together, collaborative. So the doctors, the nurses, the social workers, the schools, and the police force all working together so that children are not missed and fall between the crack. So that's some of the things that we've done. So now we have a lot of sort of policies around safeguarding. So most organizations, if not every, who works with young people who have things to safeguard them. And safeguarding can even look like things like being aware of things like grooming. So, so really just bringing in robust processes to ensure that no child falls between the crack. And if the police doesn't notice, if the school doesn't notice, at least maybe the social worker or the doctor would notice and help support that child.
Mm.
I've got a question which is nothing to
Yes,
do with
Tim.
safeguarding. Going back to the parental advising, I mean, I'm not a parent myself, but you obviously deal with lots of families and lots of parents. What would you say is the biggest mistake that parents tend to make with their children that is easy to correct, or maybe the biggest mistake they make that isn't easy to correct, but is something that you could start to work with? What is the biggest thing you see that goes wrong with parenting?
The biggest thing is parents feeling that they can, especially growing up, I would say in Western. So I grew up in Nigeria, and it was a real community feeling where an aunt or somebody who wasn't even an aunt, everyone was an aunt or an uncle who was older. And a child, and Tim, I don't know when you grew up here, and if maybe in the UK, because I do feel that some of this might have existed in the UK, but actually now it's no longer the case. So there was a real community feel where if an adult saw your child going wrong, they would correct that child. They would actually speak to that child. But today, we are growing up in this individualistic society where parents are like, oh, it's my child. No one should talk to my child if my child is going wrong. And I think that's one mistake, because I really believe that it takes a village, it takes a community to raise children. We cannot raise children on our own. And so I think the mistake that parents might make is saying, this is my child, my precious child. You don't dare scold my child when they're out of line. It's my job as a parent and my job alone. Because parenting is demanding. And sometimes as a parent, you actually just want a day off, or you want to just say, hey, can you just have my child so that I can just have a breather, especially if you're raising your child alone, for instance. But also sometimes there are two parents involved in raising children, but there's something about having another adult that has the child's best interest at heart. So it could be a godparent. We have, I don't know, Christelle, if you have, that notion, and if that's still, but I know in the UK there is still quite a big thing around that, but also in youth, in churches, in organizations, having people that care for those young people that are not their parents, because especially when they become teenagers, they feel they know it all. So I have a lot of young adults that I mentored when they were younger. One, she is now 30, and I first met her when she was 15, and she was having a real difficult relationship with her mom, and sadly her dad had just passed on. And so she was like, actually, there's no point living now because my dad is gone, my mom and I don't get on. And she was just like, life is not worth living because no one cares for me. But we had this impromptu sort of a mentoring relationship where she would talk to me. And she told me 15 years later that I didn't know. She said, I was about to take my own life because I felt that no one cared enough for me. Because my mom and I were not getting on. No, my dad is just sadly passed on. So what was life worth living? She said she was about to take her life. But when we started our relationship, where I'll just check in with her and I'll be able to talk to her. And there were things that her mom was saying to her, but the fact that it was coming from a different person other than her mom, who was very objective, she was able to take it, not take it personally, and actually receive that help. So that's one big thing I would probably say that parents are making, like, you need people that careful. And I know there's also a fear, because in the UK there's been a lot of things around grooming, either sexual abuse. So some parents are also very wary about that. But I think that's why it's important to take time out and know who it is that has your child's best interest at heart. Look at integrity. And even if you have to vet them, so to speak, but really find those respectable adults that care for your children, and they can help make that parenting journey easier. She said to me, she said, there were things her mom was saying, and I was saying exactly the same, but because it was coming from me, she was able to take it on. And so that's why I recommend to parents to find that tribe around you, find that community who have your child's best interest at heart. That's one thing I would say. Another thing I'll say quickly is being intentional. My son turned 16 on Valentine's Day, so he's a real Valentine's baby. And I still remember, like, 16 years ago when he was born, carrying him in a baby sling and, going for a walk. We had snow like we just had this week. The fact is that if I haven't been intentional in the time and the space that I created in spending quality time with him, now that he's a teenager, 16, he's not really interested in that parental conversation as much as when he was a child. And so if we are not intentional about these moments when they're younger, they soon grow up and don't need us as much. And if you don't have that relationship, then once they're grown, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to be in the same room because you're like, you don't care about them enough. So now they're like, I don't need you. I can do life by myself. So I really encourage parents to be intentional with time. And because sometimes we think we need to give children expensive gifts, but actually sometimes all children need is that quality time with you, that 15 minutes uninterrupted time with you as a fellow, where you can have that conversation with them. Some cases with my younger son is like when he's going to bed and he wants to have this conversation. I'm like, it's bedtime. Why are we having this conversation? But that's his time that he wants to talk about it. And so it's really being intentional. I think that's my key thing, being intentional about the quality of your relationship that you have with your children. Because then when they get older, they will have that relationship with you so they can come to you. But if they don't have that, if you haven't built that when they were children, they're not going to turn to you at 14, 15 saying, hey, mom or dad having issues, they will not talk to you. So the early relationship is really key.
Absolutely. I'm trying to see how I want to form this question. It might be more of a statement that you can give me feedback on, but we're in the midst of an international lockdown. Many of us are still locked down. Some people are not, but I know the UK, you're in complete lockdown, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for parents who are home with their children? And as a parent, I know my son is struggling just as much as parents are. So what advice do you have for parents and for our youth in the midst of this lockdown?
Okay, so as a parent myself, but also a parent of a teenager, I would say to parents is practice self-care. I always attribute it to when you're on the plane and you're flying, they'll tell you if there's an emergency, look after you first, or then you can look after your children. So I recommend to parents, it's not selfish to look after yourself. So find what makes you happy. I'll tell you what mine is. Mine has been creating a routine for myself and the boys. And so we know we actually sat together and we set up a schedule. This is what we do. So I find routine really helps. And it helps. Children are creatures of habit and they're used to routine from school. So really, in terms of homeschooling, having a routine is really key. Now, the second thing is having an accountability partner. So it could be a fellow mom or fellow dad that you can reach out to and say, hey, today I've had a really bad day, and you can have a moan, you can have a win, you can have a cry, a laugh, whatever you need to do, knowing they're not going to judge you. They're just going to be like, yeah, I feel you. I'm going through, today's been a bad day for me. And you can really check in with someone. That has saved my sanity. And then thirdly, find something that you need to do. It could be something as simple as going for a walk, getting out, getting some fresh air. That's been really helpful for me. The other thing I do is my sister and I, we have a Zoom call and we work out. So she plays her screen. She shares her screen with me and we do a workout to Joanna Sim. She's an American sort of so we have a half an hour. And so that way we've got some good endorphins pumping because we're like, yeah, we've had this amazing workout. That helps us. Sometimes it could be running a bath. It could be, so that was me on Saturday. I decided it was my me time and I ran a bath with some candles and some music, whatever you like. So it could be painting. It could be whatever you like to do. It could be listening to music. Look after you because you cannot give out of an empty tank, I say. So fill your tank first and then you will be in a better position to support your children and those around you. And for young people like my 16-year-old, he, especially in the UK where we had a cancellation of our exams, so he's in year 11, and just after Christmas, because during Christmas he was really working hard. He said, I've got my mock exams. The moment after Christmas hit and there was an announcement that the exams were cancelled, he lost all motivation for studying. And that was really difficult. So I had to, because I'm currently on my own parenting the boys, and again, my own being on lockdown as a parent alone started a year ago. So sadly, my marriage of 18 years broke down. And so I had to get other people to talk to my son. I said, rather than mom being the one who's the one nagging, the one saying, have you cleaned your room? Have you done this? I said to my younger brother, I said, can you talk to Samuel and just show him the benefit of revising, regardless of whether the exams are cancelled? Because although they're cancelled, they still have to get the results that they need to get into his next level of education. So we would have something called college, but you guys will probably call it like high school. So middle school, high school. So he needs to get certain grades to go on to his next level. So I said to him, don't be fooled by the exams being cancelled. You don't want to have gaps in your knowledge that you then need to catch up with later. So it's best that you keep up with the revision. But I was talking about it. It was almost like falling on deaf ears. We had parents, even the teachers shared the same. So I thought, okay, I need to get somebody else to have that conversation with him. So that's what I've done. And I think that has helped him to work together and create a plan. So that's something that I recommend for parents to really notice their young people. They can be acting out. I don't want parents to take it personally because it's just, like you say, we're in a global pandemic and it's affecting everyone's well-being. So some days as parents and as young people, it'll be a really rubbish day, and it's okay to say, hey, tomorrow is a new day, we'll start again tomorrow. So some days I've had horrible days. Some days I've had days like my younger son refused to engage, and I've just said, you know what? It's okay. Tomorrow is a new day. And I think I really want parents to know that the young person acting out, because they're not seeing their friends, they're not getting out, getting some exercise. So they're probably overusing social media as well. So don't forget there might be things like bullying going on social media. They can't get away from it. Because at least back in the day when there was bullying on the school playground, you could go home and that was it. But now they can find them on their computer, on their phone. So it's really important that as parents, we are aware of what our young people are going in and help them to find ways to cope. So it could be going out for a walk. It could be going out on their bike to cycle, just helping them to find ways to look after their well-being, because I think well-being is being affected. And I think we will not know the full extent of the impact of the pandemic. In time to come, we will find out more. But really just helping you as parents and then helping your young person to manage their emotions, the breathing, the exercise, the even playing fun board games and just being silly with each other. Like, we the other night we were playing Jenga and, Connect Four, just really simple things, because again, you're bonding with your child. I know who the competitive one is in my boys, and the moment we get the games going, and that's a good way to bond with them as well, and a good way to just distress away from devices, away from screens, and just face-to-face contact.
Well, I've got a question, but we haven't got much time left.
No.
Let's finish on a positive light.
Okay.
So let's say best scenario, everything opens up and the world is back to normal in the summer. What are the things that you're looking forward to doing when the world has opened up again?
Wow, I'm looking forward to meeting up with my friends. I really realized how much I've missed my friends. I haven't been able to see many of them for a whole year. I can't believe it. I'm looking forward to traveling again, because I love traveling. I can't wait to come to the States, Christelle, at some point. Again, I know the States is huge, so I can't even say States.
Come visit me in San Diego.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I love that. So I love traveling, and I think that's probably one of the things I'm looking forward to doing again, being able to travel and visit friends and family and make memories. So I think those are the two main things I'm really, really looking forward to doing.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it. Chioma, where can our viewers and friends find you online if they want more information about your parenting techniques and workshops that you share and youth work? Where can we find you?
Okay, so on Twitter, I'm on Chioma Youth Work, and on Facebook, Chioma The Parenting Power, and then Instagram, same Chioma The Parenting Power. And I'm in the process of getting a website done. So once that's created, then we'll be able to share that. But I'm also available on LinkedIn as Chioma Fanawopo. So please follow, do check out. And if you'd love me to run workshops or share some of the things that I do around well-being, because again, that's something I'm really passionate about, well-being, parenting, and young people, because I'm a real advocate of young people. That I really believe that no child is born bad, that every child has greatness in them, and it's for us as those around them, parents, carers, guardians, to really help define that gift that is in our young people, because they're amazing. I believe all young people, everyone is amazing. They just need help sometimes in getting that gold out of them.
I love that. And Tim has put something that our guests can scan, our viewers can scan right here. Tim, can you explain that just a tiny bit more?
Yeah, well, that takes you to my website, where I've got a link to all social things. And if you let me know the website, I can add that to that.
Okay.
And but yeah, I mean, it's like there's also down here, I always get the mirroring wrong, but yeah, there's the Twitter handle. I don't know if that's the best place to find you, but that's the way it works. So it's been great to have you on the chat today, and the chat on the show. I'm on the Twitter chat. I'm getting confused. But it's great to have you on the show today. And any final words, Christelle, or shall we play the outro?
The final words are thank you so much for sharing your gems with us. I followed you for a little bit of time on Twitter, and you have so much gold to share with the world. So thank you for joining us here and chatting with us. I hope people go and find you on social media, and want to say to the rest of our viewers, thank you for being here and goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
This is terrifying for me.
I've made more money in the last 3 years than I did in the previous 7.
Cliche shit, you know.